The stars outside the viewport glittered with an eerie tranquility, starkly contrasting the tense atmosphere inside the command center of the Earth Space Force flagship, Endeavour. Lieutenant Jack Armstrong, a young but seasoned strategist, stood with a grim expression, his sharp eyes scanning the tactical display. The enemy ships, sleek and menacing, advanced with a slow yet deliberate grace. "Admiral Zarthan is playing with us," Jack muttered under his breath. His Australian accent was thick with frustration and determination. Captain Sarah Mitchell, his mentor and commanding officer, approached. Her presence was a steadying force amidst the crew's anxiety. "What's our status, Lieutenant?" Jack straightened, his focus unwavering. "We're holding the line, but barely. The Vellner ships are outmaneuvering us. Their cloaking devices are making it nearly impossible to get a solid lock." Sarah nodded, her eyes hardening. "We need a plan, Jack. They're testing our defenses, looking for weaknesses." Jack's mind raced. The Vellner, an advanced alien race, had declared war on humanity with little warning. Admiral Zarthan, their leader, was known for his ruthless tactics and mocking demeanor. He had taunted the Earth Space Force, deriding their slower, older vessels. "Nova, run a diagnostic on the enemy cloaking patterns," Jack ordered the ship's AI. "We need to find a weakness." The AI's voice responded with a calm, almost soothing tone. "Running diagnostics. Estimated time to completion, 3 minutes." Jack turned to Sarah. "If we can identify a pattern, we might be able to predict their movements and counterattack effectively." Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've got this, Jack. Remember, strategy is your strength." Jack nodded, his resolve firming. He quickly issued orders to the crew, directing the positioning of their ships and preparing for the next engagement. The tension in the command center was palpable as they awaited Nova's analysis. "Diagnostics complete," Nova announced. "Pattern detected in Vellner cloaking technology. Uploading data to tactical display." Jack's eyes flicked to the display. "There," he pointed. "They have a slight energy fluctuation every time they cloak and decloak. It's brief, but it's something we can exploit." Sarah nodded. "Good work. Let's coordinate with the fleet and set a trap." Jack relayed the new information to the other ships, outlining a plan to lure the Vellner into a false sense of security before striking. The Endeavour and its fleet moved into position, their slower vessels acting as bait. As predicted, Admiral Zarthan took the bait. The Vellner ships decloaked to engage, their energy fluctuations momentarily exposing them. Jack seized the opportunity. "Fire at will," he commanded. The human fleet unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, targeting the vulnerable Vellner ships. Explosions rocked the enemy vessels as the tactical display lit up with indicators of successful hits. A cheer erupted in the command center, but Jack remained focused. "Keep pressing the advantage. Don't let up." The battle raged on, the human fleet now holding its own against the Vellner. Jack's strategy had turned the tide, but he knew this was only the beginning. Admiral Zarthan would not retreat so easily. Suddenly, an alert flashed on the display. "Incoming transmission from the Vellner flagship," Nova announced. "On screen," Sarah ordered. Admiral Zarthan's image appeared, his alien features twisted in a sneer. "Impressive, Lieutenant Armstrong. You've managed to surprise me, but your victory will be short-lived." Jack stepped forward, meeting Zarthan's gaze with unwavering determination. "We're not backing down, Zarthan. This is our home, and we'll defend it with everything we have." Zarthan chuckled, a cold, menacing sound. "We shall see, human. We shall see." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in a tense silence. Jack turned to Sarah. "We need to be ready for whatever he throws at us next." Sarah nodded. "Agreed. But you've shown we can stand up to them. That's a start." As the crew began preparations for the next phase of the battle, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this conflict was far from over. Admiral Zarthan was cunning and resourceful, and he would undoubtedly have more tricks up his sleeve. The Endeavour hummed with activity as repairs were underway. The battle had taken its toll, But Jack Armstrong's quick thinking had given humanity a brief respite. The command center was a hive of focused energy as the crew worked to reinforce their defenses and prepare for the next inevitable clash. Jack stood at the central console, reviewing the damage reports. Captain Sarah Mitchell approached, her expression one of quiet determination. "How are we holding up?" she asked. "Better than expected," Jack replied, not looking up from the data. "We've managed to repair the primary weapons systems, but the shield generators are still at half capacity." Sarah nodded, her mind already strategizing. "We need those shields. Without them, we won't last through another assault." Jack's thoughts were interrupted by a communication alert. "Incoming message from Earth Command," announced Nova. "Put it through," Jack said. The face of Admiral Walker appeared on the screen, his features stern. "Lieutenant Armstrong, Captain Mitchell, well done on holding the line. We've managed to decode part of the Vellner's communication network. They're planning a major offensive." Jack exchanged a glance with Sarah. "What's their target?" "Their primary target appears to be the Martian colonies," Admiral Walker said gravely. "If they succeed, we'll lose a crucial foothold." "We won't let that happen," Jack stated firmly. "What's our plan of action?" "We need you to intercept their fleet before they reach Mars," Walker replied. "We're sending reinforcements, but they won't arrive in time. You'll have to hold them off." Jack nodded. "Understood, sir. We'll do what we can." The transmission ended, and Sarah turned to Jack. "We need a plan that can keep them at bay until reinforcements arrive." Jack's mind raced. "If we can draw them into a narrow corridor near the asteroid belt, we can use the terrain to our advantage. It'll limit their movement and give us a fighting chance." Sarah smiled slightly. "It's a bold move, but it might just work. Let's get to it." As they relayed the plan to the crew, the ship's systems buzzed with renewed energy. Jack could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders, but he pushed it aside. There was no room for doubt. "All hands, prepare for immediate departure," Jack ordered over the ship's intercom. "We're heading to the asteroid belt." The Endeavour surged forward, its engines roaring to life. Jack monitored the tactical display, watching the enemy fleet's movements. The Vellner ships were methodical and relentless, but Jack knew they could be outmaneuvered with the right strategy. "Approaching the asteroid belt," Nova reported. "Enemy fleet detected. Closing in fast." "All ships, take defensive positions," Jack commanded. "Use the asteroids for cover and focus fire on any vessels that break formation." The human fleet dispersed, weaving through the massive rocks that floated in space. The Vellner ships followed, their sleek forms darting between the asteroids. Jack's plan was working. The enemy was forced into a confined space, reducing their mobility. "Concentrate fire on their lead ship," Jack instructed. "If we can take it out, it'll disrupt their command structure." Energy beams and missile salvos streaked through the void, impacting against the Vellner ships. Explosions lit up the darkness as the enemy struggled to maintain cohesion. The lead ship shuddered under the barrage, its shields flickering before failing entirely. "Target their engines," Jack said, his voice steady. "We need to disable them." The Endeavour's weapons locked onto the vulnerable ship, and a series of precise shots crippled its propulsion systems. The Vellner vessel drifted helplessly, and the rest of the enemy fleet hesitated, their advance faltering. "We've got them," Sarah said, a note of triumph in her voice. "Don't get complacent," Jack warned. "They're not beaten yet." Suddenly, an alarm blared. "Multiple signatures detected," Nova alerted. "Enemy reinforcements incoming." Jack's eyes widened as he saw the new contacts on the display. "All units, brace for impact. We've got incoming reinforcements." The Vellner ships swarmed in, overwhelming the human fleet's position. The Endeavour shook violently as enemy fire pounded its hull. Jack's mind raced for a solution, but the situation was dire. "Hold the line," Jack shouted. "We just need to buy a little more time." The crew responded with unwavering resolve, their efforts focused on repelling the relentless assault. As the battle raged on, Jack knew they were fighting against the odds, but he also knew they had no choice. They had to protect the Martian colonies at all costs. With the situation growing increasingly desperate, Jack glanced at Sarah. We need to regroup and prepare for a counterattack. We can't let them break through. Sarah nodded, her eyes fierce with determination. We'll find a way, Jack. We always do. The Endeavor's hull groaned as it absorbed another volley from the Vellner reinforcements. Jack Armstrong, undeterred, barked orders over the intercom. All units, concentrate fire on the flanking ships. We need to thin their numbers before they can encircle us. Captain Sarah Mitchell watched him with a mix of admiration and concern. We're running low on ammunition, Jack. If we don't find a way to disrupt their attack, we won't hold out much longer. Jack nodded, his mind working furiously. Nova, give me a status update on the enemy's formation. Are there any weak points we can exploit? The AI responded promptly, analyzing. The enemy formation has a slight gap on the starboard side, near asteroid cluster Zeta 4. It's minimal, but it could be enough for a focused strike. Jack's eyes lit up with determination. That's our chance. Sarah, get our fastest ships to that position and prepare for a concentrated assault. We'll hit them hard and fast, then pull back before they can regroup. Sarah relayed the orders, her voice steady and commanding. All units, follow Lieutenant Armstrong's lead. This is our best shot at breaking their momentum. The fleet moved into position, weaving through the asteroid field with practiced precision. Jack's plan hinged on timing and coordination. A single misstep could spell disaster. As the enemy fleet closed in, Jack watched the tactical display intently. Wait for it. Wait for it. Now. Fire all weapons. A barrage of energy blasts erupted from the human ships, striking the exposed flank of the Vellner formation. The enemy vessels shuddered under the assault, their shields flickering and failing. Several ships exploded, debris scattering through the void. The Endeavor pressed the advantage, its guns blazing. Keep up the pressure, Jack shouted. Don't let them regroup. For a moment, it seemed as though they might turn the tide. The Vellner ships faltered, their advance stalling. But then, a new threat emerged. Admiral Zarthan's flagship, a massive, menacing vessel, decloaked at the edge of the battlefield. Zarthan's here, Sarah said, her voice grim. He's brought reinforcements. Jack clenched his fists. We need to take out his flagship. If we can disable it, the rest of their fleet will be in disarray. Sarah nodded. Agreed. But how do we get close enough? Jack's mind raced. Nova, analyze the flagship's defenses. Look for any vulnerabilities we can exploit. The AI responded. The flagship's main reactor is heavily shielded, but there is a slight delay in their shield regeneration cycle. If we time our attack precisely, we might be able to breach it. That's our target, Jack said. Sarah, get our most heavily armed ships ready for a run on the flagship. We'll need to synchronize our attack perfectly. As the human fleet regrouped for the assault, Jack felt a surge of resolve. They had faced overwhelming odds before and come out on top. This time would be no different. The Endeavor led the charge, its engines straining as it pushed towards the flagship. The Vellner defenses opened fire, but the human ships weaved through the barrage with skill and determination. Almost there, Jack murmured, watching the countdown timer. All units, prepare to fire on my mark. The seconds ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, the moment arrived. Now, fire everything we've got. A torrent of energy blasts and missiles slammed into the flagship's shields. For a moment, it seemed as though the attack would fail. But then, the shields flickered and collapsed, exposing the vulnerable reactor. Concentrate fire on the reactor, Jack ordered. We need to disable it now. The human ships poured everything they had into the exposed target. The reactor began to destabilize, and the flagship shuddered under the assault. Explosions rippled through the vessel, and it began to break apart. We did it, Sarah said, her voice filled with relief. The flagship is going down. Jack watched as the Vellner fleet began to fall back, their coordination shattered. We've bought ourselves some time, but this isn't over. We need to regroup and prepare for the next wave. The Endeavour's command center was a flurry of activity. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage from the recent skirmish, while Lieutenant Jack Armstrong pored over tactical readouts. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood beside him, her face lined with concern. We managed to fend off the last wave, but it's only a matter of time before Zarthan strikes again, Sarah said, her voice steady but tense. Jack nodded, his eyes not leaving the screen. We need a plan that will give us more than just a temporary reprieve. We have to strike at the heart of their operation. Sarah raised an eyebrow. You mean their forward command post? Exactly, Jack confirmed. If we can disrupt their supply lines and command structure, we might be able to buy enough time for reinforcements to arrive. That's a risky move, Sarah said thoughtfully, but it might be our only shot. Jack turned to the ship's AI. Nova, do we have any intelligence on the Velner's forward command post? Nova's calm voice filled the room. Analysis of intercepted communications suggests a high probability that the forward command post is located on a small moon in the Arcturus system. It is heavily guarded, but a surgical strike could be effective. Jack and Sarah exchanged a glance. It's a long shot, Sarah said, but it might be our best option. Prepare the fleet, Jack ordered. We're going to hit them where it hurts. The crew sprang into action, coordinating with the other ships. As the Endeavour set course for the Arcturus system, Jack couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and dread. The success of this mission was crucial, and failure was not an option. Hours later, the fleet arrived at the outskirts of the Arcturus system. The moon housing the Velner command post loomed ahead, shrouded in darkness. Jack studied the tactical display, noting the dense network of defenses. We'll need to move quickly and precisely, he said. Any misstep and we'll be sitting ducks. Sarah nodded. We'll take a small task force to breach their defenses. The rest of the fleet will provide cover and engage any reinforcements. Jack relayed the plan to the fleet, then turned to his team. Let's make this count. For Earth. The Endeavour and its escort of smaller ships surged forward, weaving through the asteroid field that protected the moon. As they approached, enemy defenses activated, unleashing a barrage of fire. The human ships returned fire, their precision strikes taking out key defense platforms. We're through the outer defenses, Sarah reported, moving to the next phase. Jack's heart pounded as they neared the command post. Nova, pinpoint the main power generator. We need to take it out to cripple their defenses. Coordinates locked. Nova responde. Uploading to tactical display. Jack directed the task force towards the power generator, their weapons primed. All units focus fire on the target. We need to take it out in one go. The fleet's combined firepower converged on the generator, and with a series of explosions, the Velner's defensive grid flickered and went dark. Target neutralized, Sarah confirmed. We're clear to proceed. Move in and deploy ground teams, Jack ordered. We need to secure the command post and gather any intelligence we can. As the ground teams descended, Jack's thoughts turned to the Velner themselves. What drove them to such relentless aggression? And what secrets lay within their command center? The answer came sooner than he expected. As the ground teams breached the facility, they encountered minimal resistance. Inside, they found a wealth of information, battle plans, supply routes, and most importantly, a detailed map of the Velner's central command network. Jack scanned the data, a sense of triumph swelling within him. This is it. This is what we needed. Let's get this back to Earth Command, Sarah said, her voice brimming with urgency. This could turn the tide. As they prepared to depart, an alert flashed on the display. Incoming transmission from Admiral Zarthan, Nova announced. On screen, Jack said. Zarthan's face appeared, his expression one of cold fury. You've made a grave mistake, humans. This will not go unanswered. Jack met Zarthan's gaze unflinchingly. We're ready for you, Zarthan. This is far from over. The transmission ended, leaving a charged silence in its wake. Jack turned to Sarah. We need to get this data back to command and prepare for their retaliation. Sarah nodded. Agreed. Let's move. The fleet set course for Earth, their mission accomplished but the battle far from won. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part was yet to come. But with the intel they had gathered, they now had a fighting chance.